Good evening, everyone. It's 7:01 tonight, December 3rd, 2020, our regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting. I ask that we please call to order and that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
The United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next section is our public comment, and this is reserved for people in attendance who wish to briefly address the board. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And if you do comment, you need to type comment in the chat box part of the screen, and you will be recognized. We ask also you please give your name and address. Do we have anyone for public comment, Donna?
I can't, it's Al Penda. I'm looking for the chat box, but I just wanted to mention again that we have myself and one scout from Troop 28 here tonight, Zach Lenderman. I don't know, I just saw him. Now, Zach, you're here. Just wanted to let the board know that Zach is working on citizenship and a community merit badge, and he wants to learn about how our government works. So we're here to see all the good work that you do for the town. So thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Welcome, Zach. Hopefully you'll find this very informative. Okay, moving on. Our good to know section.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Under good to know, I'm going to call on Donna Lanza to give a report under good to know about Linda Stevenson and the good deeds she's been doing in our community.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. So Linda Stevenson and her husband Tom have lived in Hebron for many, many years. They live on East Street. And Linda is a professional baker. She bakes, she teaches, and she's a cake decorator. So starting in April, every week on Thursday afternoons, treats would be delivered to our office by her husband, and every week it was a different confection, cookies, squares, cakes, cupcakes. She would deliver them they were delivered to the Hebron Post Office, the Hebron Fire Department, the Police Department, the Town Hall, and the Public Works Department weekly. From April and through November. So we extend our appreciation and thanks, and you know, something as simple as a sweet treat really does make a difference. So it was a labor of love for her. She just wanted to do something that would kind of cheer up the essential workers. So we extend our thanks and appreciation to her and her husband.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Not sure when we get to try out the delectable food. That's okay. I don't feel left out.
I've tried them, Dan. They're good.
That's great. That's great. I've been asked if we could move up section or item 8A after the good to know, because we do have Attorney Ken Slater with us, and so unless there's anybody that has any objections, we would like to kind of change around our itinerary a little bit. Does anybody have an issue with that? Art? Okay, Gail?
No problem. I think we should do that.
Okay, John? Not sure if he's not there. And
Yeah,
myself.
fine.
Okay, so
That's
let's move that up. Okay, he is back. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Slater, for joining us, and also thank you, members of the WPCA for joining us. So first I want to bring up under item 8A, the Water Pollution Control Authority composition. So at the November 19th, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting, there was
Yes.
discussion. We good? There was, at the November 19th, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting, there was discussion regarding the current composition of the WPCA and whether or not members of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance should be appointed as full members moving forward. So the WPCA Chair, Claire O'Brien, and the Town Attorney, Ken Slater, have been invited to attend this meeting. Attorney Slater is here to provide and answer questions and information and opinions on possible structures of the WPCA and how this would be implemented. Following is the current language in the town charter and ordinance relative to the WPCA. And then I do know the WPCA has sent a letter to the the Board of Selectmen, and they wish that that letter be read into the minutes.
Okay. And I do agree, and in talking, I feel that we actually have two issues here, or two different items. So I will read the letter into the record, and I don't know how we want to move forward, but I think we really need to appoint Mr. Riley for another term. He has done incredible work on that board, and he is pivotal in that board's makeup. And considering what they are going through with the projects and all, I think it would be wrong not to reappoint him. But that being said, dear Board of Selectmen, this is dated December 2nd, sorry, Town of Hebron, Board of Selectmen, 15 Gilead Street, Hebron, Connecticut, 06248. Dear Board of Selectmen, the members of the Hebron Water Pollution Control Authority, WPCA, were appalled at the lack of respect shown to the WPCA during the November 19th, 2020 Board of Selectmen, BOS, meeting. Many of the remarks made at the meeting regarding the WPCA are false, inaccurate, and misleading. The correct information and facts are summarized below. WPCA is a 5-member board with 4-year terms appointments, which are approved by the Board of Selectmen. In years past, this was a 7-member board. However, in a recent charter revision, the required board membership was reduced to 5 members as the WPCA had difficulty filling all 7 seats, and meetings are often forced to be canceled due to lack of quorum. The WPCA operates and manages its own budget, which is separate from the town budget as mandated by Connecticut state statutes. The WPCA budget is not associated with the town budget and therefore does not affect the town taxes or mill rate. The WPCA creates its annual budget based on its current and forecasted expenses, which determine the EDU, equivalent dwelling unit, rate and corresponding annual user fee. The WPCA assesses its users an annual user fee based on the EDU. The WPCA conducts an annual public hearing to allow the public an opportunity to comment on the proposed budget and user fees. The initial costs to construct the Town of Hebron sewer system was fully funded by the users via a special assessment. The sewer system of the town benefits the entire town and the town business district specifically. Without the sewer system, the town would unlikely attract businesses such as the recently opened, let us start moving. The recently opened assisted living center without a viable sewer system. The entire community benefits from the services these businesses provide and the taxes collected from them. A joint workshop was held February 11th, 2020 with the WPCA, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Town Manager, and Director of Finance. In the workshop, it was stated the Hebron user fees were lower compared to other surrounding towns. It was suggested that the WPCA review the current user fees and consider an increase to be more in line with other towns. The Board of Selectmen minutes of the February 20th, 2020 State of the WPCA shall review the current user fees. In addition, the minutes show the town attorney confirmed that the town of Hebron owns the sewer system infrastructure and that the WPCA should work on an annual report to explain the WPCA service to the residents. Did you go up too far or not?
Yeah, what? So it's too far.
Can you scroll it back a touch? Okay. Yeah. The WPCA feels that the best way to explain information to the residents about the WPCA would be in one of the quarterly Hebron magazine issues. The WPCA is very active and involved board and has worked several years to plan the recently approved project to upgrade the 9 existing pump stations, which are now nearly 30 years old. Many meetings involving hours of work with full board participation were conducted to both down select the most appropriate engineering firm to design the upgrades and to also to select a consulting firm to oversee both the design and construction phases of the project. Currently, the construction effort is in the formal bidding process, with the next step being the selection of a contractor to perform the construction. The WPCA feels it is in the town of Hebron's best interest to continue with the present board members, as continuity is important for this project to be successful. All current members want to continue their appointment. The WPCA members' knowledge and relationships with each other, as well as with the current companies involved in carrying out the 2-phase pump station upgrade, is critical to the successful completion of these tasks. The WPCA requests that you, the Board of Selectmen, reappoint Mr. James Riley to continue to serve as an active member of the WPCA board. Given his extensive sewer system experience as a retired employee of the Hartford MDC, his membership is invaluable. It is the WPCA's understanding that the Board of Selectmen would like to be more involved. We suggest that the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance appoint a liaison, 1 member each, to the WPCA. In recent years, the Selectmen had indirect WPCA representation because coincidentally, the WPCA chair, Clara O'Brien, was elected to the Board of Selectmen, though she no longer serves on that Board of Selectmen. The WPCA would welcome the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance at meetings to better understand the importance of this commission. In addition, we suggest that if the Board of Select wish to change the makeup of the board, that it be done at the next charter revision, where the board membership can be increased back to a 7-member board, which will allow a voting member from both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. We welcome any questions so that accurate facts are discussed about the WPCA. The WPCA 2020-2021 budget is available for review via the Town of Hebron website. Sincerely, Town of Hebron WPCA, Claire O'Brien, Chairman, Chris Hemberger, Vice Chairman, Kevin Grady, James Riley, Mark Fillade, and this was CC to Andy Tierney, Town Manager, Elaine Griffin, Director of Finance. Okay. Thank you. So as I say, I personally feel that we have two issues. The first one is concerning Mr. Riley, who has shown dedication. I feel he's done an incredible job, and to not reappoint him, I think would be a disservice not only to the WPCA, but also to the town as a whole. I don't know if we want to take that matter up now and then have a discussion on next steps. And I'll look for input from the board.
Dan, if I may,
Yes, Gail, please.
I believe that Mr. Riley should be reappointed. He actually is the kind of volunteer that we want on boards and commissions. He does his homework before going to a meeting. He shows up for the meetings by looking at his attendance record. You know that. So I think we need to keep people like him on our boards and commissions.
Okay, Mark or John?
Art, you want to go first, or?
Yeah, sure. I'm not in favor of excluding anybody that wants to participate and contribute, so we should reappoint everybody. But I do believe that we should pursue including a member of the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen in addition to the 5 current members. That's my feeling.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I was impressed with Mr. Riley when I was there. I'm concerned about this board because I know the history. Going door to door in Amston Lake, I got an earful from people. People are not happy with it. And I think we have one opportunity to, first of all, the WPCA doesn't have any oversight. It's not an elected body. It has no oversight. The only oversight we have is by the Board of Selectmen selecting people. And so we have an opportunity to strengthen the board at some point. And from my point of view, from what I've seen in the last 3 years and before that, and then looking at the history of the WPCA, there are three areas three qualities we need on that board. We need leadership, we need finance capabilities, and we need technical capabilities. And obviously, Mr. Riley fills the technical capabilities. Financially, though, from a finance point of view, it has not been run the best that it could, I don't think. And I think we've suffered from that. Now, I don't know, well, I do know what happened, but we had 9 years where we had the lowest rate in the region for some reason. And now it's almost double this year. And that doesn't even cover the things that it should cover. So my opinion is, yeah, reappoint Mr. Riley, but we need stronger participation by the Board of Finance, especially, and the Board of Selectmen, so we know where this is going. Within the letter it said that it's an independent board and it doesn't take money from the town. Well, that's a little bit misleading in the sense that we just passed a $10 million bond to fix the sewer system, and it's not only the people that are on the sewer system that are paying for it, it's the people that are not on it. And then to say that that we all benefit, well, perhaps we all benefit from the commercial sector, but we don't benefit from Amston Lake, and we don't benefit from the other sectors, the residential sectors. So the rest of the town is paying for residential sewers right now. And it's not fair. It's not fair at all, from my point of view. It's never been fair, and so I went through the minutes to see how they came up with the 510. And I looked to find the budget on the town website. I don't think it's there. I couldn't find it. The budget was supposed to be in the minutes when they discussed it. It wasn't in the minutes of the WPCA. I have a sense of how they came up with it. They did not include anything that might help the town pay back the bond. Now, every virtually every municipality that has a sewer district, the sewer district contributes to the fixing of the system. Virtually every one. And if it's not 100%, it's fixed as 20% or 5%. No municipality that I could find has 0%. The only municipality that has that is Hebron. So, you know, I look at this. I appreciate people's service. Like I said, I got an earful from residents on the sewer system who were just livid, and I had nothing to say to them because I wasn't informed as to what was going on, and I don't have direct responsibility, direct oversight. We need to integrate more WPCA into the town so we have some idea of where what's going on, because otherwise the town is paying for the sewer, and whatever the WPCA doesn't pay, we're paying for. So it's a misnomer to say that the town is not involved here. It certainly is. So I agree with Mark. If you want to reappoint Mr. Riley, great. I think, like I said, he seems to have a great detailed knowledge, but we need financial expertise on this committee, and we need leadership, and we need the Board of Selectmen to be more involved and more cognizant of what's going on. And being a liaison is not going to do it.
Well, okay. As I say, I'd like to break this into two things. I would like, and I'm making a motion that we reappoint James Riley to another term on the WPCA. Want to get that over and done with, but then we can have discussion on the next steps. And that's why we have Attorney Slater here, so that he can give us what our legal options are, and so we can actually start some serious dialogue on how next steps should be approached and what they should look like. So with the motion on the floor to reappoint Mr. Riley for another term, calling for a vote, Gail?
Aye. Gail Richmond, aye.
Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye.
John?
John Collins, aye.
And myself, aye. So that takes care of part one. Part two, and I'm going to open it up to Attorney Slater, actually, to kind of get his viewpoints and to get what legally can be done and how best to do that. And I also want to hear from Ms. O'Brien, because I see her there as chairman of the WPCA, to hear some of what her input is. So Attorney Slater?
Thank you. The WPCA exists, basically two parts of it. One is the general statutes, Chapter 103 of the general statutes requires that any municipal sewer system be managed by a WPCA that is appointed or established by the town. If you didn't have a charter, then your board would designate who serves as a WPCA, which body will serve as, it used to be called a sewer commission before some amendments were made calling them WPCAs, but they're designated. Towns that have charters have the ability to establish the constitution of the WPCA. And in Hebron, that is in fact the case. It was mentioned earlier. It's a 5-person board with overlapping terms, 4-year overlapping terms. The obligations of a WPCA are laid out in that chapter of the general statutes, and they basically are given the power to bond, they're given the power to levy assessments, they're given the power to impose connection fees and user fees. And there's a statute that governs the user fees, and there's a requirement that they essentially be tied to general usage. Often in a residential communities, if everyone is similarly situated, a town will use an EDU or an equal dwelling unit. So they'll just basically charge a flat fee to each user. Some towns will actually meter individual users, and there's some other, so hybrid mechanisms that are used. But that's the responsibility that they have. They're not really a policy-making board in the same fashion as your board and a board of finance. It's more of a, for lack of a better way to describe it, a meat and potatoes organization that they have to find a way to provide the service, that what that service costs, and find a way to pay for it.
Yes,
You
Mr.
don't have
Slater,
the
can I just interrupt
Yes,
you
sir.
for 2 seconds. You said that users' fees are meant to be used for, or are used for only for maintenance. I don't think that's true. There are plenty of towns that have, or most municipalities have ordinances that direct users' fees for actually restore, or for fixing the sewers later.
Right. When I say operation, I didn't mean to suggest that it wasn't involved in maintenance either. So no, absolutely. That's different from a connection fee. So if there's going to be repairs, there certainly can be capital funds that can be accounted for as part of the user fees for ongoing maintenance. So I didn't mean to suggest, when I say using, that includes, making sure you have a system that operates, and that could include the day-to-day operation now, as well as looking forward towards making periodic repairs that have to be made. Large-scale project, there's some kind of a very
and so
expensive.
I just want to make the point here that my problem here is that for years, 20 years, and now, none of those users' fees were directed towards capital improvement, and that was a problem. That was a mistake, and we can't do anything about it now because we have COVID, we have people that are problematic, and now we also have the problem that our user rates to Colchester have doubled because of either the meter or because we have a deteriorated system that we're paying, water's getting into the system, and now we're paying for that water to go to Colchester. Sorry, but
Not a problem. You were correct in that the ongoing costs, there's also unexpected things that can occur, as happens in the municipality in general. So I don't know great detail about it, but I know there were issues associated with the metering. And once the more accurate metering came into being, the amount of the fees associated with that, increased. But those are the mechanisms that are afforded to a WPCA. Again, it's bonding, it's issuing assessments for, usually done when the system's constructed in the first place. Benefited properties are assessed, connection fees, and then user fees. And those user fees are based on the character of the use. Now, in the charter provides for 5 persons. There would have to be a charter amendment in order to change that. I think that was suggested in some of the in a letter that was written below, and that is correct. You cannot by ordinance change what the charter says. The charter is effectively the constitution of the town, and you wouldn't be able to make a change in that. So during the next charter revision, if there's an interest to having more members, that's how you would do that. I will say anecdotally, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having a member of the Board of Finance, member of the Board of Selectmen on the WPCA board. But I would say that it to some degree is unusual. I think it's more common that you might have, and as member Collins had mentioned, certainly a liaison doesn't have the power of a vote. But a member of the Board of Selectmen or a member of the Board of Finance that would be on that board would have 1 vote of the either 5 or the 7 or however many you select. So that is a reality. But whether or not a member of the Board of Selectmen would, you can find someone who would be interested to serve in both places. I'm aware actually 2 instances, and one is the current chair of the WPCA, who was already on the WPCA and then became a member of the Board of Selectmen. And me and my colleagues, and we represent a bunch of WPCAs, were aware of another instance exactly like that. We had somebody on the WPCA who then ran for the Board of Selectmen and was on both boards. And those are the only instances we're aware of, but we haven't done we certainly haven't done a comprehensive review of how it is in every town in Connecticut. So it certainly may be the case, but because their responsibility is to find a reasonable cost, and your point, to them can be made, whether you're on the board or whether you're not, that they needed to incorporate more in terms of capital. That's certainly a policy decision on their part, but as an outline of what their roles and responsibilities are, they come out of the general statutes, and they are limited in some fashion by your charter in that there's currently 5 members, and you could add to that at the next charter revision if you so desired. In the meanwhile, you could designate persons, and it would be the prerogative of the WPCA, but I'm sure that the WPCA would be, welcoming of having some input from members of the Board of Finance or the Board of Selectmen as a liaison, so they could report back to the other 2 boards. But that's the basic legal framework under which they exist. Anybody have any questions about that? Yes.
Yeah, Ken, so when's the next charter revision? Why do we have to wait till the next charter revision? Why can't we amend the charter before the revision?
Because that's the only statutory way in which you can change this. There's a very detailed process. Your board can establish a charter revision commission and establish the commission, and that's the mechanism in which you change what is effectively the constitution of the town. So that's the next time you can do it is when you establish a charter revision commission and give them a charge. And one of those charges, or maybe the only charge, would be to look at the WPCA. That's your prerogative.
All right, that's what I was getting at. They could have one single charge to address, and they can do it without touching anything else in the charter.
Well, you should understand that you can give them the charge, but they have the ability to look at anything they want. They report back to you. So you have to make a decision of what's actually going to be put before the board. Typically, if there is a one-issue charge, then a charter revision wouldn't go beyond that. But just so you understand, they could look at the whole charter and come back to you and say, hey, by the way, we think this also should be changed. And then that would be your decision about whether you're going to put that on to the voters.
Thank you. Thanks.
Gail, you
May
wanted to say something?
add something on that? The last time we looked at charter was 2019. I was on that charter revision. I was on it the time before. Our charter reads that we will reconvene every 5 years. So that's now 4 more years before the charter is up for review. And one time we did have a couple of things that were our charge. And what did we do? We went through it from every comma and semicolon and whatnot on it and reviewed the whole thing.
And I'm not sure if Donna Lanza is on or Andy wants to pipe in, but or even Attorney Slater could probably answer it. But to form a charter commission literally is probably a full year process. You've got to advertise for members. There are specific time frames all the way along the process. And then, and again, I don't know if Attorney Slater wants to try to maybe do a quick synopsis of that.
Well, the very quick one would be, it's not a super quick process. There are several hearings that have to take place. You've got to constitute the commission. There are several hearings, then a report comes back to you, then you can send a report back to it if there are elements of what they propose that you don't agree with, and then ultimately you'd send that on to the voters to decide. So it is not a speedy process, and the neighborhood of a year is a fair assessment.
And we couldn't convene that anyways. We have to wait to 2024. So it's kind of moot, right?
Andy wants to say something.
Yeah, so Attorney Slater will back me up. You have the ability to open a charter whenever you want, but we always apply common sense, and it is a big undertaking, and we try to have, not that this isn't a big item and not that it's not important, but we try to you know, we do it every 5 years, and there's towns that let that go 10 years, 15 years because it's such an undertaking. We've been pretty diligent in doing it every 5 years, as Gail said, but once you open that charter, that can be open for anything and everything. So we try to use the common sense approach where we have a few items that would warrant that type of exercise and activity. But you can open it whenever you want, but I'm not sure that it would be practical to do it just for this one reason at this time. Not saying I don't agree or disagree with what you guys want to do. And then one of the other things that is just a fact that wasn't in the letter for the new people that are involved is we used to have a WPCA person 21, 24 hours a week. And through the budget cuts, we eliminated that position and we kind of combined it with the public works director's position. And I think he gets like a $2,500 a year stipend. So he's really not an expertise in this, and we kind of downfill that conduit that would bring the information that the Board of Selectmen was used to from the WPCA to the town. We had an actual employee in the Horton House 3 days a week working on that and constantly dealing with the town manager, Board of Finance or finance director. And when Denise Cooper retired, we eliminated that and kind of combined that with the Public Works Department. So I think, you know, we had Claire on the Board of Selectmen, which was a godsend because she was both. But now that Claire is not there, I think it even dropped off even more. So just point of reference.
And I will back up town manager that in fact you can charge a charter commission anytime you wish to. But there's also the wisdom to, you know, do it typically do it when there's more than one issue to deal with.
From what I've gathered and heard and listening to John and you know everybody else, it really sounds as if the issue revolves around the money of it. Is Clara, are you still available, Clara?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you just kind of explain how the little bit of the history of the fee structure and how and what facts or what input was used when you kind of laid out the fee structure of the charges to the actual users? I don't know if that's a fair question or not, but because it seems like that was one of the big concerns was the fee jump and the amount of money that was left, I guess we would say, in the kitty for the upgrades that are now necessary, which, you know, literally 30 years of a sewer project, I think is pretty much its life term. But again, if you could please comment on that, please.
So over the years, and when I came on the board, we followed the same structure that was used the years before us. We would take what our expenses were, add money into, quote, our sinking fund, and that fund was used to pay any repairs every year. So keep in mind, 30 years ago, it was a brand new system. Over the years, we kept putting money into the sinking fund. So that's how we would come up with our user fees. As the years progressed, maybe about 5, could be even 8 years ago, we started looking at the system because it was getting old, and we did an evaluation to see how the system was. And that's when we found out that we really needed to start planning for the upgrade. So we've always paid for the repairs out of the sinking fund, any money that we've collected from the user fees. Now, I know at the workshop, we were told that our user fees were low compared to other surrounding towns, but it was based on a budget that we had. We always put money into the sinking fund, like I say, to pay for any repairs for the system. The users were paid for the initial infrastructure by a special assessment. So any business in town any resident paid an assessment fee to build the infrastructure initially. So the users paid for the initial building of the infrastructure. And then over the years, they are charged a user fee, a fee to use the system. And this past year, or last year, we changed the meter that goes from Hebron to Colchester, and we noticed our rates went up. We had the meter calibrated several times to make sure that it wasn't the meter. And it wasn't the meter was reading accurately. So we can only assume that because the meter was old, as the years went on, it wasn't reading correctly. And now we put a new meter in and it's reading true rates. So our flows to Colchester went up. Based on the flows to Colchester, we had to increase our user fees to cover the expenses. That's why the user fees went from $350 per EDU to $510. It wasn't because the Board of Selectmen or John Collins asked us to look at it in the workshop. It was because our fees actually, our expenses went up and we had to raise the fees. We've always tried to keep them fair and comparable to our budget because it's a user fee that you pay to use the system. And we've always taken any repairs. We've always budgeted so we've had enough money to pay repairs.
Okay. Attorney
Mr.
Slater,
Chairman,
you had stated that they can charge, I'm trying to figure out how to word it, but they can bank a certain amount of money for future repairs. Is that true? Or what's the state allow or not allow? What fees structure wise, what are they able to do or not do? Do you
Mr.
know?
Chairman?
Or
That's something I actually looked at for the February meeting. And I'm so glad that I wasn't the cause of the increase in the rates. So this is a hot topic everywhere, just so you know. It's a controversial topic, and people have, it's like I don't know, it's like religion. Some people think that the user should pay for everything, and some people say that they shouldn't. But generally, what happens is that the users pay some part of the capitalization costs, almost always. I mean, in fact, always. In every place that I've seen, they pay some part of the capitalization costs. So it's written in an ordinance that this is the formula. You pay for the maintenance, users pay for the maintenance, they pay for 20% of capitalization or 50%, or in some places in big cities, they pay for 100% of all capitalization. Now, in Hebron, they're paying zero. We're paying zero. And, we are in a place now where we can't do anything about that, even if we wanted to. And the reason is we kept the rates artificially low for 9 years or for forever. And now we've jacked them up to 510. And if you want to go around Amston Lake and talk to people, they're hopping mad, and they should be, because as one person told me, it's one thing to have to pay 510, but it's another thing to not know that this is coming. So people aren't able to plan for it. So, we are not. I don't see. I mean, I'm not on the WPCA, but I don't see us increasing the rates too much in the near future anyways. I don't think we have the capacity to do that to people. So, so my feeling was after that, I felt, number one, we are all now in Hebron going to be paying for the sewers for years to come. We've got that bond. Those rates aren't going to go up too much. We're not going to be asking the users to pay for too much more. But you know what? I want somebody on the WPCA who's got a financial background, who's, who can report back to us, who can put up a spreadsheet, who can have a budget, because I've never seen a true budget. I mean, there may be one now, I don't know, but you recall 2 years ago, I was trying to get that information, it just wasn't there. So that's what I want. This is our responsibility now as Board of Selectmen. I appreciate what you're doing, Dan, here, and getting people together. We have a responsibility to put together a board that we have confidence in going forward. We have a big project coming up. We have a huge project, and the whole town is paid for it, and hopefully it'll go smoothly. And I just think that the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance should be informed, it should be integrally involved in that as we go forward.
Mr.
Yeah, may
Chairman,
I
if I
say
may
something?
speak, please.
Go ahead, Clara.
So John, it went to referendum and the town people voted if they wanted to pay for the sewer project. That referendum passed. We have a public hearing every year for our budget. Nobody came. It was advertised in the paper that the EDU was going to be going up from $350 to $510. Nobody responded. We advertised, we gave them an opportunity to come out. Also, it was passed by the town in referendum. If it truly failed, we would have looked at other options, but it passed.
Well,
the past 30 years, the users have paid for all repairs and they paid for the infrastructure.
right.
May I say
Not the
something,
capital.
Dan?
Yes, please, Mark.
So nobody can be to blame for what's taken place for over the last 30 years, but it seems that to avert this in the future, two things need to take place. One is you don't need to surprise the people who are paying the sewer fees, which that happened, and you don't need to surprise the taxpayer by coming up with $6 million to bond. And what were the voters going to do? Say we're not going to fix the sewers? I mean, you almost had to vote yes on that. So
I voted yes.
I did too, and we don't understand it like sewer engineers or MDC or whatever, but it seems there does need to be somebody on the board who, as John said, can have a financial background that can foresee what needs to be spent over the years so you don't get hammered with $6 million and doubling your sewer fees. So that's the financial part. And I know two members of the board have strong backgrounds. Both of them used to be my neighbors in sewer systems and worked for MDC. Maybe they weren't there 25 years ago, but it seems that somebody should be able to better anticipate what fees need to be spent to keep the thing in working order so that you don't have this large influx of money that needs to take place to even keep the things going. So, I mean, I think that's a strong point to add somebody with a financial background and somebody from the Board of Selectmen to be on the board.
So this is Chris Hamburger from the WPCA. Can I speak?
Sure. I'm sorry. Who's this? I'm sorry.
Chris Hamburger, WPCA.
Yes, sir. Please.
That's all fine. We're not opposed to having somebody on the board. But with regard to the finances, I understand people are upset that the fees went up. And I guess I would be too. But the reality is if we had collected that money over 30 years, I just did a rough calculation. Their annual pay fees would have been $1,000 roughly. Now we could do a percentage of that, like John suggested. Maybe they pay 10%. I don't know what the other towns are doing, but those are about the only options you have.
Looking, and I think part of this, looking at hindsight, there's a lot of we coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. I not pertain or professing to be any kind of a financial guru. My only fears with putting either a board of selectmen and or a board of finance member and having one of those individuals have to be a voting member on the WPCA is the time commitment as it is just to become or to be a selectman and or a board of finance member is pretty intense, and to add another commission that they have to be a part of may become overly burdensome. I do believe that there definitely needs to be better communications between some of the different entities. I would say that we may need someone who does, and it could be within our own staff, within the town hall or whatever. I'll let Andy chime in on this one. Someone who can do a better job of long-term financial guesswork, for lack of a better word, of what expenses might be, that we could then try to do a better job of economic forecasts, 20 years down the road. And again, a question for either Claire or Chris: what is the average lifespan of a sewer system of these pump stations? And I've heard anywhere from 20 years to 30. I don't know, not my field. So if someone could answer that.
I think we've been told. I think we've been told 30.
Yeah, we've been told 25 to 30 years by Wright Pierce, who came out and is the engineer for this project.
So we were at our 30.
Yes.
Yep.
Literally.
And you have to understand that this system was built 30 years ago. We have no way to monitor it remotely. We don't even have generators at all the pump stations. When we have a power failure, Facilities is running around with generators to pump the pump stations. These stations are 30 years old and, quite frankly, are well outdated, and they need to be upgraded. With generators there all the time, so when we lose power, the generators come on. A way to monitor the meters instead of waiting for an alarm to go off. So, these systems don't last forever, and we've hit the life expectancy, but we've planned for it by looking at the system years ago when we started looking at the system and started to move forward to plan for the upgrade.
So again, then the question becomes, and again, this would be a thing for both Attorney Slater and Andy, what are our legal capabilities to bank money for future repairs, and how do we come up with realistic numbers so that 30 years from now, when I'll probably be eating pablum or something at that point, we have at least a reasonably sufficient amount of money put aside for those upgrades, if that's even legally possible. And again, leaving it up to those two gentlemen to come up with answers.
Well, in the past, and Mel's on here, years ago, when Denise Cooper was the administrator and was in 3 days a week, there was a line item in the CIP where we had, I don't want to call it a sinking fund, but it was a line item where we were going to put money away that we needed for upgrades to the joint facilities building in East Hampton. Fortunate for the member towns, the upgrades were paid for with a grant. So we were forgiven that expense. But that kind of disappeared out of the CIP account where we were putting money away through the town budgets to handle upgrades like this. Not that I'm in any disagreement with Selectman Collins saying there should be some sort of percentage or portion more for people on the users on the line. I do see that myself in other municipalities, but we're not the only town going through what we're going through right now. There's a couple other towns, it's in the newspaper. I just think moving forward, like I said, I don't want to burn out good prospects for boards of selectmen, board of finance, and give them more meetings, but you do need that continuity between the WPCA and the town and board of selectmen that lead our town. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but when we, and this isn't a criticism, but we did cut that position and we lost that. And the only thing that maintained that was Clara was on the board of selectmen, and under the liaison reports would bring up information that was pertinent. But I think there's more work to be done, and how the board of selectmen decide to move forward, I think it's a topic that needs to be addressed.
And I'll chime in that in my experience in towns where, you know, often these systems are required because of watersheds, because there's areas where there's smaller lots, so often around lakes like Amson Lake, where it's a relatively small part of town, and they're forced to put in a system that, you know, decades ago no one thought would have been necessary. There are towns that, you know, of the philosophy that they shouldn't bear all of that expense, whereas a bigger city, as Selectman Collins had mentioned, where you've got a large area and they can bear the expense of that. It really is a policy standpoint of whether you want to put that kind of capital, you know, capital expenditure, planning for the capital expenditure, and put how much of that should be borne out by a relatively small area in some towns versus larger area. And that's one that both members of the WPCA and, you know, the town in general have to get their minds wrapped around, because when big projects like this come around, how much of that should be borne by just the person served by the WPCA, and have their rates go up that much, and how much has in some cases votes have been supported on a town-wide basis to support that. So I have seen a wide range. The smaller the area, the smaller the town. The smaller the area that needs to be served, I tend to see the town-wide budgets carrying a bigger part of that capital budgets. In areas where there's a lot more users that are being served, a larger portion has been borne. But Selectman Collins has done more research on that specific issue lately than I have. But as a broad brush, that's the way I've seen it in the communities I've worked with.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
I don't, like I said, I don't advocate increasing people's sewer rates now. I mean, people are in, we know what we're in. We're you know, that's enough right now for everybody. But, you know, going forward, and I don't want to rehash the past either, but going forward, I have a technical question to the sewer people. When we fix this system, we're going to reduce flows, right? So the cost should go down, right?
John, we're not reducing
No.
flows. Flows are waste that comes from the people's homes. We're not
No, but I
reducing.
thought we were getting dilution from groundwater. Isn't that part of the increase from last year?
But that's not, this is the pump stations we're working on, not all the other infrastructure. This is purely the pump stations. So you
we're
can
gonna
get
still have that
influence. Yes,
So-
you can get influence through the full length of the pipe from here to wherever.
So
And
John,
That's another matter.
What's the
I
chance
think what
that
John is referring to, at one time, there was a study that was done to ascertain how much groundwater was infiltrating into the piping. I think that's what
That's
John is alluding to.
Yep.
I'm not sure what that answer was.
so Dan, we did a study to see how much we had for infiltrates, and we expected to see a lot, and we did not. If we did see a lot in any particular area, we would have worked on those pipes, but we did not find that as the cause. We thought we were going to, but we didn't. This upgrade is to the pump stations to bring them up into, you know, the 20th century beyond. You know, I mean, like I say, we have no way of monitoring these stations to see when the pumps are running, what times, etc. We have no generators in many of the pump stations. So some of the pump stations have corroded wires, rust. It's time to do an upgrade. And that's what we're upgrading is the pump stations. We're not doing any general lines in the road. We didn't find the infiltrates that we thought we might find. And
Thank
correct
you.
me if I'm wrong, Chris or Jim or Kevin.
Nope, that's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Mel?
one thing I would just like to add, and I'm sorry if I stepped out of turn. My name is Jim Riley, and Mr. Chairman and other select,
Go ahead.
appreciate your support tonight and reappointing me. The one thing I could add is we will save a little bit money as far as the pump stations are now going to be running a little more efficient. Right now, we're running with 30-year-old pumps, and the impellers are worn out. And, you know, we're replacing them as we go. We're not going to be replacing the pumps. You know, so we're going to be saving some money in that, but we're not going to be saving as far as the flows go. Flows are the flows. We're just going to be pumping more efficient.
Thank you. Mel, go ahead.
I just have two things. Number one, I think if to address the issue of overburdening the either the Board of members of the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance, you could just designate a position to be held by someone, a volunteer who has certain background. There are plenty of retired people in town that have finance backgrounds that might step up to that. The other question I had was I'm sitting here doing some rough math, and I don't even know how many dwelling units we bill each year. Does anyone from the commission know?
I'm not 100% sure how many we have because some of our buildings in town are metered and the equivalent dwelling units are for the single homes. And
Okay.
I would like to add that I do have a finance background. I manage a big multi-million dollar business. So to say that you need someone with a finance background, I do have that finance background.
You make it part of the makeup in the charter, you're not going to be there forever.
Nope.
And then that would have, and you could be that person while you are there. But I think we're looking to, or the concern that I heard from the Board of Selectmen and from the town manager is overburdening current elected officials. So how many dwelling units, forget the town buildings, how many dwelling units are there for single family homes?
Isn't there like 1,000? Isn't that right?
I want to say it's in the
No.
900 range. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
How many?
In the 900 range.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I think this has been fantastic conversation. It's been fantastic dialogue. Again, I thank Attorney Slater for coming on board. I think that this needs to continue. I think we need to have of course, you have to do it via Zoom, but a roundtable discussion where we can bring up ideas, solutions to some of these problems. And I think it's been great conversation tonight. But I want to try to bring this to a close, at least for tonight, and definitely keep it on our agenda, especially as we start going into our budget deliberations, which actually be starting fairly soon. Even though our budget and the WPCA budget are different entities, it still affects at least a certain percentage of taxpayers. It's still money going out of people's pockets. The same as the Evanston Lake Tax District. Although it only affects the tax district itself, those residents around the lake, it is still a cost. So it all plays a part. And so, as I say, unless somebody else has anything else pertinent to add, we need to keep this going, but I want to try to bring it to a close tonight.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say one more thing, please? James Riley.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just to reassure you and your members, the other selectmen, the $10 million that we're going to be spending on this pump station project. I did hear Mr. Collins speak of somebody should be overseeing that. Well, we hired an owner's rep, and that owner's rep is going to represent us and the town to make sure that the contractors that are doing the job are doing it right trying to stay within the budget without too many, overruns and making sure that everything is put in the ground correctly. So we did take an assurance to that to make sure that, because we weren't going to be there to watch them every step of the way, and neither is the owner's rep. But the owner's rep's going to be there weekly, a couple days a week to keep tabs on the contractors to make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to be going. And we don't have lot of cost overruns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chairman, when did the price go to $10 million?
That's an
That
error.
includes some paving for about 2.5 million.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And if I
Okay,
may say
thank you.
one more thing, Dan, it's Claire O'Brien.
Yes.
We realized that the increase was steep. We did offer the users to be able to pay the original $350 due October 1st, and anything after that, we gave until June 30th to pay without any interest. So we did make some concessions because we had to increase the fees to charge no interest and give them until June 30th, 2021 to pay the difference between the $350 and the $510. So we did try to do what we could to help the homeowners because we do know we're all in difficult times.
Okay. Andy, did you want to add anything or?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Mr.
John?
Chair, could I have a very brief liberty?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
ahead, please.
Selectman Collins. Sorry, I'll defer.
Well,
You can? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Slater, could you just stay around after this part of it? I just have one question and I never see you, so I'd like to ask you.
By all means. Mr. Chairman, could I have the liberty for one moment to comment on something?
Yes, please.
I'm very happy to see Mr. Penda that was on the call in the beginning, Scout Leader Penda, and young man Zachary Linderman's on the line. He gets to see the hard work that you folks do. He's working on a citizenship bag, and the flag that's over my shoulder, I don't take any credit for. It's my son Luke's, who was under the leadership of Mr. Penda, able to achieve Eagle Scout. So I remember attending one of your meetings with him. And I think it's a great testament that they're here and they get to watch the hard work you folks are doing to struggle with a local problem. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Penda because I know he's on the line because he did a lot for my son. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ken. There's a lot of good scouts in the Hebron still.
Yep.
We got quite
Thank
a
you.
record going. Yep.
Okay. Great.
Good.
Thank you very, very much. John, you wanted to ask a question of Attorney Slater?
I did. And doesn't have to do with sewers, so it's a good question.
Good.
Well, I'm only prepared for sewers today.
So, we're under the state of emergency and it's coming from the charter. And I don't know what powers Andy has or whatever. Within the charter, that state of emergency was obviously meant to be temporary. It was meant to be for, a daily, if Board of Selectmen was out of contact. It's evident there. In addition, within the charter, it says that all states of emergency, the ordinances are only 2 weeks, can only be for 2 weeks. So does that mean that we have to renew that every 2 weeks? That's number one. And the second thing is, can we create our own state of emergency? Because people are saying that we won't get state aid if we are not in a state of emergency. I don't know if that's true or not. Without the Board of Selectmen transferring power to the town manager.
Well, I'll still go with that. I was only prepared for sewers, but I can comment on one thing, which was that you don't, the governor's, you're a creature of the law of the state of Connecticut, and the governor's state of emergency covers the entire state of Connecticut. So
Okay.
I'm very confident that it is not correct that there has to be an individual declaration in order to be able to take advantage what is recognized as a state emergency. What I can't speak to, because I haven't studied, is the section of the charter that you're speaking about in terms of emergency powers. It would surprise me that you'd have to go through the exercise of having to renew that every 2 weeks, but I apologize. I wouldn't want to give an opinion one way or the other without taking a closer look at that language.
Yeah, I think the original writers were concerned that they didn't want to give up, a democracy, transfer power, and so they terminated anything that had to do with the emergency after 2 weeks. Clearly, I'm the only person on the board that opposes this. I find it undemocratic, and I don't, I value our institutions and I value democracy, and at this point, I don't think it's necessary. That has nothing to do with you, but I was just wondered. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I could just say that, working with a lot of towns that are just struggling through this pandemic right now, and they handle it in a lot of different ways, and it's really been something to watch. But I tended to see that administration and boards or councils are finding a way to take, the experience and advice from one another. So the specifics of the charter, I'd be happy to look at on that point. But I can just, I feel for you in dealing with these kinds of meetings and trying to accomplish business on a day-to-day basis. I would expect that you're still, as a board, are being able to give some guidance and are serving, your powers as a board of selectmen, remain. It's just they're dealing with the pandemic is a challenge, but I certainly can look more carefully at that provision to see whether or not there needs to be periodic action, but it would surprise me that would be the case.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Returning back to our agenda. Our next would be, actually, do we have any other actually, we do have appointments and resignations. And we have one from Dina Watson, who has indicated that she does not wish to be reappointed to the Historic Properties Commission. Ms. Watson has served the Hebron Historic Properties Commission for a number of years, and literally, well, it shows there, from 2002 to 2020, and was the chair from 2007 to 2018. I actually have the pleasure of knowing Dina for many years, and I thank her for her dedication to that organization, and she's done a great job, and I wish her well in her retirement from that. I don't think we need to do a vote on that, correct?
No vote
No,
is necessary.
we just recognized her. Thank you for her years of service.
18 years. So that's fantastic. It's just incredible. Love to see that many more people do those kinds of years. Next would be our town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. So this week was a CCM convention I've been attending each day. I actually moderated a class on Tuesday, and it wrapped up today. So that was a little bit different. It was virtual meetings versus in person. So hopefully they did well. Secondly, we're working once again on the COVID with the town operations. Most of the people that were quarantined are back at the town hall and the public works. And we're working on some new protocols for the public works department regarding snow operations, because there could be less staff if people have to quarantine or test positive. So we're coming up with some protocols with that. We've been working diligently on that to make sure we have sufficient employees, and we'll keep you posted on that throughout. So what I'm trying to say without saying it is we may have some reduced snow removal operations, but we'll categorize that in a green, yellow, and red scenario, and that'll be laid out for the Board of Selectmen to let the townspeople know. But we have some contractors that are contracted in case we get in dire straits, and we're working on a couple possible joint agreements with surrounding towns. So we're working on that. It's uncharted waters, but we're hopefully have a plan in place. I don't know if there's any questions regarding that.
No, I mean, it's the sign of the times. We'll have to see what the year brings.
We'll keep you posted.
Has there been any, and I know they keep talking about vaccines coming out and different areas getting vaccines in December, blah, blah, blah. And I know they've talked about nursing homes and what have you. Have they talked about municipal workers or any of that kind of stuff on the governor's level or any of that or no?
I think the planning that we need to do is to plan that we're not going to have it in time for winter. They're talking about first responders, convalescent homes, and then so on and so forth. So we're going to plan as if that's not available for our snowplow operations. And if it is, that'd be great.
Okay.
Next, the new bucket truck arrived today at Public Works. Looks very good. So we'll put that into operation as soon as we can. With that being said, the CIP budgets are coming in. So we'll be reviewing those with department heads, myself, my staff. As everybody knows, we were awarded the steep grant for the Wall Street sidewalks. Before we can proceed with that, we need to work with SHPO to see if there's any designated historic sites or artifacts that are going to be disturbed with that. And I've been in contact with John Barron. I think I CC'd everybody on that email today. So that's a good thing for the town. The applications are coming in for the EMTs for the fire department. We're also working on the fire chief's job description, and we'll be bringing that to the Board of Selectmen for approval, possibly at the next meeting. Danny, I'll go over that with you if you wish.
Please.
Once again, we were busy with the rain and wind event, and we had approximately 192 people out of power, but they worked diligently through the night to reduce that by about 150. So the following day, we had approximately 30 people out, and they worked through the following day to restore restoration to all those people. So it was unfortunate that we keep having these events, but the response to that seemed to be better, thank God. Mel's with us tonight, but he well knows we've been working with AHM on a final town agreement, which is now finalized, and I'll be putting that on the Board of Selectmen's agenda for the next meeting. That was a lot of work from a lot of people, volunteers, so I want to thank them. Include Mal's one of them. So we got, bear with me here. We got some FEMA reimbursement for the COVID. I know this is something that John was looking at. That's the wrong document. Where is it? Here it goes. So we submitted along with the schools, and of course that had to get broken out. So the schools got their money, and I'm not sure what they got. I do know what the town got. So this was we're only allowed to apply through June 30th. So the reimbursement for the COVID from the state was $12,232.62. We're still anticipating another $5,000 from FEMA, which we haven't got yet. But working with their formulas and the percentage, once we broke out the schools, we do have the $12,232 in hand, and we're still waiting for the FEMA. I'm not sure. I would think there will be a second round. I'm hoping to be a second round because most of the expense was after June 30th, at least as far as we're concerned. But that'll remain to be seen. So I just want to report the numbers tonight.
Thank you.
Once again, all the new signs are up at the parks properties. I hope you people that use them have seen them and like them. Hopefully to your liking. And then last but not least, the Snoke Folk dedication is this Sunday at 2 p.m. And Judy Pradell has sent an invitation through me to extend to the Board of Selectmen and myself, and hope that we could be in attendance and possibly say a few words. So I just wanted to make sure that was reported.
So that's 2 p.m. where?
At the old town hall.
I'll probably go. Hey, the signs look fabulous, Andy. They really do. They add so much. And if anybody wants to go to Raymond Brook Reserve, they have, I think the Boy Scouts put out these plaques that give the historical stuff. It's really great. It's in the experience is really interesting. I mean, it's really good. But the signs look great. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
It was 2 Eagle projects, John. Two Eagle Scouts did that.
Oh, did they? Well,
Yep.
Fantastic. I mean, I've been directing people to it. I learned so much about the Hildings, and I went back and looked at some more. And thank you so much. Really, I was blown away.
Yeah, I'll pass that along. It is nice.
Thank you. Okay.
Next on the agenda is item 7A. That would be an item I placed. That would be the Douglas Library roof replacement. And I know the selectmen have heard this topic before, but once again, as we looked into it, I had gone out at no cost through CROG and sought a private company to give us a recommendation and how we should proceed. And there was about a 24% markup if we were to use them moving forward. I shared that with the building committee, and under their capable review, they had looked at it, and then they looked at the roof themselves, and with their expertise had found some deficiencies that weren't covered in that. And they wrote a letter of recommendation to myself, and it is in front of you at the Board of Selectmen. After reviewing that, I wholeheartedly agree with them, and this would require us entering into a contract with another professional. We do have money in the budget for the roof replacement that this money would come out of, but I would like to have the Board of Selectmen's fingerprints on this, seeing we would be entering into a contract that originally wasn't discussed in the CIP request. So with that, we have multiple members of the building committee with us tonight that could speak to it and their letter.
Okay. Yeah, I was reading through it. I don't know if one of the building committee members wants to do a quick overview of what they found and the issues, and just to kind of bring the audience up to speed with what the situation is.
How high, low level of detail or high level detail do you want, Dan? If you want a broad overview, I can do it, or I can defer to Richard Steiner to give you a more better technical review.
Well, enough so that we and the audience understand what the original thought was, and then what was discovered, and why we need to go these extra steps.
I'll let Richard take it, if it's all right with Richard, and I'll just be quiet for a while. He'll tell you.
For the record, Richard Steiner, member of the Hebron Public Building Committee. Mr. Larson, to answer your question, the first thing that we did look at is Andy sent us over this cost proposal that was generated by this firm that was suggested by Krog. We spent a lot of time looking at the numbers, and we also, without sharing the source, we also had a number of firms price check it, and Andy was right on that the number that they were proposing was not supportable. We were paying for a premium that was just not justifiable. But the other thing that became very apparent as the building committee toured the library and we began to poke around, and let me kind of tell you the makeup of the building committee. We have an architect on the building committee, we have an engineer, myself, I have over 40 years construction experience. And we also brought a third party down just to kind of look at it. Without even the input of this third party roofing consultant, we saw there was a number of issues that the proposal from Krog was just going to re-roof over the existing library without addressing some very significant issues that we uncovered. Very briefly, two things that we discovered was at the library there are no soffit vents that allow any ventilation of air up through the substructure of the roof. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we noticed in the old section of the library, where there should be a section of plywood or wood sheathing cut out for the top of the roof vent at the ridge, the plywood was tight. So we were very alarmed by the fact that we, in both the existing and new library addition, that we didn't have true ventilation, which kind of leads us to believe why everybody that looks at the roof sees the waffling of the shingles. We think that the culprit might possibly be a lack of ventilation that's causing the fire retarded homosoap material to absorb more moisture and start to deflect. We don't know. As Wayne said in his letter to the Board of Selectmen, there are a lot of unknowns that we don't know, that we need to confirm before we move forward on spending any of the taxpayer dollars on restoring that roof. We think the only way that we're really going to get a good handle is by retaining an outside source. It's somebody that I have worked with, Dave Foster, who could not join us tonight, who is a licensed architect, has also worked with over a number of years. So we do have a level of comfort. The other thing that we looked at almost immediately, Andy's office sent over all the documents that they had for the Douglas Library, the initial estimate that was put forward by this firm from Krog, drawings, and some specifications. One of the things we were really concerned about was that the drawings and specifications were really not elaborate enough. They were kind of very vague. And we were really concerned that if we advanced the project out into the public bidding, that we would have had extreme variability of pricing. We would have contractors not bidding apples to apples.
Mhm.
And with all of that, we presented that back to Andy and said, you know, we don't like to spend money we don't have to, but we sure don't want to spend taxpayer money where we really don't have a strong level of comfort that the drawings and specifications, and more importantly, issues at the library that we really don't know what's causing them and how best to address them. And so that's why we're really advocating the retention of this outside roofing consultant.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know there's also been discussion, I don't know if Gail's on, if she wants to talk about it with humidity issues. Could a roof issue create humidity issues within the structure?
I don't think we can really determine that, Dan. Because again, we have too much unknown
Okay.
to make that call. The other thing is that the underside of the new part of the roof, from what we can see, is all sheetrocked on the joists, so, on the roof joists. So it's a kind of a sealed system. I think that must have been part of the fire.
I think you mean the rafters.
On the rafters, I mean, on the rafters. Thank you, Mal.
Okay.
But on the bottom side of the rafters, you have sheetrock, and it's taped and it's sealed. So there's not a whole lot getting from the inside into the rafter space. But on the other hand, there's nothing going up from under the soffit either. So
Yeah.
it's a kind of a sealed system. It's not exactly ideal. But what we don't know is what else is up there. And that's what the purpose of hiring the roofing contractor. He's going to come in. He's going to have roofers cut holes in the roof so that you can actually see what's there and make judgment as to how many of these things he has to do. If he finds similar construction in multiple places, then he knows that's what's going on. If he finds different construction in different places, then we have a bigger issue. But we'll go from there. So the whole idea is we have to cut to find out what's going on.
Okay.
And then once we do, there's a second part of this would be he would put together for an additional fee a bid spec. After he knows what's there, he can give us a price on what it would take to give a bid spec that we can then go out to get apples to apples bids from contractors. Because he doesn't do construction, which is the advantage.
Dan, can I ask a question? Make a comment?
Please.
Wayne and Richard, I kind of just went through this. I built posts and beams, and because of moisture intrusion into the rafter cavities, the roof buckles. So the fix after many stress, you know what stress skin panels are?
Mhm.
Where there's the foam and the OSB connected and the sheetrock on the other side. They've come to the conclusion after getting sued that you need to have a substantial vapor barrier behind the sheetrock, and you can't let any moisture get up into the rafter cavities, whether it's a cold roof like yours is, which has no flow going up into it, or if it's a vented roof. So just having gone through this, sheetrock is not enough to keep moisture from going up there. I would just, we've been battling this in the industry of post and beam for quite a while. And the fix that architects and engineers came up with is that you can't allow moisture to get up through the living space into the rafter bays. So just something to throw out there.
That's very educational, Mark. I appreciate it because it's not something we would, well, certainly I wouldn't have experience with. Richard or Dave might, but that just adds to our lack of knowledge. You know, what we don't know is, did they put a vapor barrier in there when they put the sheetrock in? We don't know. So
Mark, we also don't know if above the sheetrock there's insulation.
Right.
Which,
we don't know that either.
Again, I mean, we could be cooking a roof with insulation if the
But
heat
and
can't
that'll
get
just absorb moisture and make the whole thing even worse because it'll never dry
Exactly.
out because
Exactly. And we
there's
don't
no
even know it
soffit
lives there.
vents. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, you're on the right track. You got to get in there and see what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Any
Okay,
other
any
questions?
other comment? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments from Board of Selectmen members, the easy way to proceed, if the board agrees, would be to follow the recommendation from the building committee to proceed with their letter or their recommendation.
Is there
The
a
money's
motion?
budgeted, so you don't need to approve that. It's in the CIP account, but
Is there a motion prepared or?
no, that's why I stated what I did.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we that we recommend that the town proceed with the recommendations of the building committee in regards to the further evaluation of the roof structure at the library. That cover it?
You could appoint me to facilitate that, because I would enter in the contract on behalf of the town.
Okay, and that we appoint Andrew Tierney as the go-to person for the communications and contracts, what have you, for that.
And authorize him to sign.
Hey, just one quick question, Dan, but Wayne and Richard still being on the building committee get to see everything and use their expertise to decide if people are going forward in the correct way, right?
Oh, definitely. And that's, I mean,
Okay.
this is one of the reasons why, and I'll pat myself on the back. I was one of the big pushers years ago to get a building committee up and running, because I was seeing so many projects being done in town that literally people were doing their best, but they did not have the expertise to know if they were being led down, the garden path or not. And the building committee, I think, has really done an incredible job and has saved the town untold amounts of money over the years. And thankfully, I think we're probably one of the few towns that probably have a building committee. I don't know for sure, but oh, definitely this is why they exist. And this is, their purpose is to assist with these kinds of projects and to help steer the town into a good path. Go ahead, John. I can tell you want to say something.
No, I just want to thank the building committee for their fantastic job on the Hebron Elementary School. I was just thinking, if we had medals, Hebron Medals of Freedom, we'd be giving them to the building committee. They were there every week. It seemed it went pretty swimmingly, smooth, it seemed to me, although, my involvement was tapered off. They were there the whole time, and it was a meaningful and an important thing to do, and they did it, and it was successful. It was on time, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
So moving forward, all in favor going across, Gail? Not sure if she's there. Mark?
Mark Rivera, aye. Thanks, guys.
No, Richmond, I know that I unmuted.
Okay. Excuse me. John?
John Collins, aye.
And myself, is Peter in?
Yeah, Peter's
Yes, Peter Casper, aye.
Okay, and then myself, aye. So motion carries unanimously. Again, thank you, people. Thank you.
You're
Great
welcome.
job, everybody.
Dan?
Yes.
Dan? This
I
is Peter
hear voice.
Casarella from East
yes.
Street, representing the Board of Trustees from the Douglas Library.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank thank the selectmen for the motion and carrying through to get these capital projects completed at the library. And thank you to the building committee, to Andy, and to Town Hall in making this all come to fruition. And one last comment for Zach, keep working hard with Mr. Penda, because he and I worked together when our respective sons became Eagle Scouts. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dan.
you're making me feel old, Peter.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Gentlemen, I have a prior commitment I have to go to, so I'm gonna have to leave the meeting. And I think Zach, since it's a school night, he probably should be
Yeah.
leaving the meeting also, right? So I want to thank you all for letting us join you tonight and keep up the good work. Thank
You
you.
are always welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, Zach, you have something to say about the meeting?
Really good. I like this. It was great.
And so
Good,
did
you
you
can
learn?
take over and I retire.
Yeah. You learned a little bit, right, Zach, about how everything works in town?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, that was the objective. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all and have a
Thanks
good
a
night.
lot.
Next.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the update on the COVID-19 long-term recovery in the town departments and school reentry openings. So as you well know, at an emergency meeting on Monday, November 16, 2020, the selectmen voted unanimously to close the town offices due to the rise in COVID-19 in an effort to protect the health of the public and the town staff. Effective Tuesday, November 17th, and until further notice, the Hebron town offices have been closed to the public due to the COVID-19. Town staff are working and responding to phone calls and emails. The public is encouraged to conduct business electronically by mail or drop boxes located in the front of the town office building in the Horton House. If any essential services is required that cannot be conducted by these methods, an appointment will be necessary. So I'm reporting that I'm recommending we stay in that until further notice. It seems to be working well. We're dealing with people that need to come in, making appointments, but the drop box and the mail and electronic seem to be working. I haven't gotten a huge number of complaints. I talked to Milton Porter twice today, and he wants to come in and pay his taxes, so we're going to accommodate him and meet with him outside. So other than that, I think people understand. Staff has been returning. Most of the people are healthy, and we hope to remain and keep it that way. As far as the schools go, Mark can speak more to this than I can, but RAM High School, Middle School remains remote learning. The elementary schools for the present time are open with kids attending. I did question that last week with both superintendents and told them that Selectmen and my office have been fielding multiple calls, why it's not a district overall closure, and they reiterated that they speak daily, weekly, and it's not uncommon in some districts to have the high schools and middle schools closed due to the sports events and interaction with those age students versus the elementary schools. So I told them in the past, we've never had this COVID, but that wasn't the norm. Normally when we close schools, especially one elementary school versus another, but they assured me they are in communications with one another and with the state, and they're following their protocols. So with that, I just wanted to report back to the selectmen.
Thank you. John, I don't know if you want to say anything. I personally, I would appreciate it if I know they send letters out to the parents. It would be nice if we had an idea of what they were doing as well. I find out, we find out from parents of kids, when letters go out. We don't necessarily see those, I don't think.
I can forward those letters to you when they go out.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Gail. I think we need those letters. And there is some consternation among the parents in town. If you have a couple of kids and they're in different buildings, so one person who called me has a child up at Ram, but they also have a child in the elementary schools, and it just upsets the whole family life and their routine. They have one kid in school, one kid on remote learning and the like, and it really does upset daycare and the like. So I agree. When there's a snow day, we close everything. And oh, what it does to the bus schedule.
Dan, I can comment quickly and I'll skip my RAM report later because we had a facilities and safeties meeting, and what Gail and all of you have talked about, we talked about at length. So the difference between the elementary school and the high school is elementary school kids are in a contained environment. They're not going out after school and having parties. It's just, they're two separate entities. So the high school is completely different. And the babysitting issue with all the teachers hurts too. So it's actually better when the kids are in the elementary school because then parents can go to work. It doesn't matter with high school kids, they can take care of themselves. But we're out till December 11th on virtual, and then we're gonna convene and see what happens, what's happened after Thanksgiving. You know, we're still at over 60 kids that are quarantined and over 30 kids testing positive for COVID, and that's not the case at the elementary school. But as Gail said, they all live at home, and the virus can travel, as you know. But there's two different criteria for whether the high school stays open or the elementary school stays open. The high school is certainly the riskier of the two endeavors to be there.
And I understand. I'm just saying it'd be nice
It's their
to
social life is what
some
you're
sort of-
saying, and I sure know that.
And just look at our numbers, Dan. I mean, the elementary school, Gail, you know, I try to keep up on this, but they may have 3 or 4 kids where, you know, we have over 30. So that's difficult to manage.
Well, I do know at one time, the elementary school was a staffing issue. It wasn't the kids that were sick, it was the staff.
Right.
I'm just saying, I just would like to see more interactive communication. Just to kind of let us know what was happening, what's going on. You know,
Well, hey, Andy tries, believe me, it isn't
well, I understand.
always easy. You're muted, Andy.
Mr. Chairman, I thought I sent the last letter to you guys with the conversations with myself and the elementary
I
school
saw that,
selectmen.
yeah.
You did.
So I sent, what I get, I try to send to you guys, and that's the letter that went to the parents, or at least the last correspondence, and I'll continue to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Next up is the update for the Hebron is open for business task force.
Peter Casper, thank you, Andy. We're continuing to focus on launching the Taste of Hebron, as I mentioned before, to continue to support and promote our local restaurants. And we have attempting to get a group of interested restaurants together for a meeting on Monday to take the next steps, and I'll keep you posted. Donna, is there anything you wish to add?
Oh, just a reminder again on the Snowfolk rollout on Sunday at 2, and that will be followed by town tree lighting at 3. Inviting people to come on downtown and socially distance view the new Snowfolk. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next On the agenda, 7D is the Town of Hebron Emergency Declaration. We keep on the agenda.
At this
Mr.
point,
Chairman, may I
yes,
comment on
please,
that?
Gail.
At the meeting where we extended it till, I had recommended that we extend it until the first meeting in December, because I think we need to keep tabs on how long we have emergency declaration in place. But given as the states still, Governor Lamont still has us in emergency declaration, and the positivity rate in the state is over 6%, I believe that we should extend that to Andy. He certainly doesn't act rashly and keeps us informed of everything that's happening. So that's my 2 cents worth on it.
Anyone else?
I'm for extending it too, with all deference to John, and I realize that his point about democracy and that the elected officials should participate. I don't see too much harm in it other than a philosophical point, John. So I'm going to say, unless Andy gets out of bounds or something, that we continue with it.
And we will know if he does that.
True.
I would say he's still keeping us informed and we're still doing our elected responsibilities. So in some aspects, nothing has changed. The biggest thing is we're just not meeting in person, which under this venue does allow for a lot more people, if they so desire, to be able to tune in and see just what's going on. And actually, it does give them more latitude for interaction, both before and or after the meeting. But I will say that I am having more customers calling up with issues and telling me that, you know, they're getting tested or they're in quarantine or whatever, which it is here in town. We are in the red, and I don't see it subsiding right away. Whether or not Thanksgiving is going to add to it or not, I don't know. Not that smart, but we definitely have got more cases here in town. Seeing the fire department pager, they're going out to more potential COVID related medical calls. So I think acting in the prudent safety aspects, I agree that we should maintain our level as we are now. Anyone else? Hearing none, I think, you know, majority of people are stating to stay in this mode. I don't think we need a motion, but.
I can make a motion, Dan, if you'd want.
Sure.
I move that the town manager continue to have emergency declaration following the same timelines as Governor Lamont. And if I left anything out of that, Donna will tell us.
Well, I would say to be reviewed at the January, first meeting in January.
I think, given what's happening, the reason that the last time I put it off a little bit was we don't want to have to constantly, that would be only the first meeting in January. That would mean we only have one more meeting then go into January. If we were going to do it, I'd say we should at least go to the end of February, because the way the positivity rate is increasing, it's not going to subside in January. I think it's going to get worse. So I would.
You could say periodically. Couldn't you say periodically?
Or we could just say keep it in line with Governor Lamont's.
Yeah, we want to keep torturing John by bringing this up all the time anyway, so.
So yeah, so
Good
let
point,
me,
Mark.
Let's just keep it with the
Briefly-
governor, because poor John, enough, he doesn't want to hear this anymore.
So let me just briefly say for posterity why I'm voting against it. I'm voting against it because I don't know what Andy's powers are. I don't think that we have the power to give it to him actually from the charter. I'm concerned about that. I don't think that the charters envisioned this at all. And like I said, I think presently we have the ability, communication-wise, in this modern age, to get a hold of people pretty easily. And so I'm not. And then the final thing is, Ken Slater said we don't need it to get refunds. That's what or reimbursements. So those were the things that I was worried about.
I will agree, John, that having been on charter the last 2 times, certainly, like everyone else, we never envisioned this. But for formality's sake, I think it's better that we do give him this power. And one of my colleagues here said it doesn't change anything because Andy does he FYIs us tremendously. And the only thing I think this gives is he has the power, if he needs to close the building, he can close that building immediately and then let us know what he's doing. So it gives him that few moments to react to something when he needs to, without trying to round up 5 of us. That's all I have to say about it, Dan.
Yep. Yeah,
I think we should just do it.
Okay. As I said, I would have done it more based on the level of positivity, like right now, virtually 99% of the towns are all in the red. But if we suddenly start getting better, but we'll
we
go
can meet and change it.
No, well, you've made it. So hearing the motion, all in favor and going down the line, Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
John,
John Collins, nay.
and myself. I'm really split. I don't want to just follow the governor. I really just don't want to follow the governor.
But you
sometimes
I'll go nay.
Oh my God.
John, there's hope for you, brother. You have a following.
Makes my day. I guess the motion passes. Though.
Next, and it carries. Motion carries. Next is, gotta scroll.
This is the December 17th draft agenda.
Okay. And again, anybody have anything they want to add, subtract, or what have you? Get it in. Okay. Our next. Okay. Our next is the December, or the consent agenda for December 3rd, which is move the Hebron Board of Selectmen to approve the following consent agenda items and motions contained therein as if individually adopted. We have both minutes. Why do I thought I only saw one? At any rate, November 16th.
Mr. Chairman, we do not have the November 19th minutes. We'll defer that to the next agenda. Thank
Okay,
you.
I was right. I did only see one set of minutes. Wow. So the approval of November 16th, 2020 regular or the emergency meeting minutes. And are there any tax refunds or no?
There are no tax refunds.
No.
What's that?
No, no tax refunds.
Okay, so anybody have anything in the emergency meeting minutes they want to discuss? Hearing none, all in favor, going across. Gail? You're on mute.
Gail Richmond, aye.
Peter Casper,
Peter Casper, aye.
Mark Rivera,
Mark Rivera, aye.
John Collins,
John Collins, aye.
and myself, aye. Next would be
Next, Dan, is, liaison reports.
and Mark.
I said mostly everything I had to say. There was a lot of discussion, Andy, particularly about the RAM becoming the emergency shelter, and everybody's on board with it. They're just wondering about some particular details. So everybody's anxious to get that worked out and it be designated an emergency shelter. I'm sure Scott will be contacting you, or you guys can talk about it. They have questions about the generator. Do you have to upgrade it? Those things. So they talked a lot about that at the meeting. So I'm done.
I was going to say, I know years ago, even when that was built, there was controversy. RAM had always been listed as Hebron's emergency shelter or within the plan. But there are things that need to be addressed to make that a legal emergency shelter within the state guidelines. So it'll be some great conversation on that. So it'll be good. Gail?
All right, the Douglas Library. They're going to have 2 virtual programs this month. On Tuesday, December 8th, they're going to have Christmas in the Colonies. And on Friday, December 11th, you might want to take note that at 1 o'clock, they're going to have a program called Tapping into the Past, Tavern Life in Early Connecticut. And there are some historians coming in to do these. And if you're interested, you can sign up on the library's website. And the library is continuing to offer curbside service. The senior center is continuing with Medicare open enrollment and went to housing assistance. And the staff has been taking the classes on the Zero Isolation program. And they have 2 more classes, and then they'll be certified, and they will start that in January. And the Hebron Board of Ed, as you know, classes resumed on November 30th, and the next meeting I'll be going to is December 10th. And that's it, Dan.
Thank you. Next would be Peter.
Peter Casper, both the Board of Finance, Parks and Rec Commissioner meeting next week, so I don't have anything additional. I don't have anything to add, although before my time is up, I'll turn to Chairman Vesey if he has anything he wants to share from the Board of Finance to our board, if since I haven't provided any update.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Hey, guys. Yeah, it's right. We didn't meet since your last meeting, so our next meeting's next Thursday on the 10th. And I'm going to plan to recommend at that meeting that we get the Board of Ed back in front of us probably for our January meeting. So we'll probably invite you guys and the Board of Ed for our January meeting, which I don't have the date for, but it's probably like the 3rd week in January, for them to give us an update on their financials. And then while I've got the floor, the conversation with WPCA that you guys know, if you guys want us to have a liaison there, I think we'll be able to get one there. So, I mean, Mal, I'll volunteer Mal since he already dropped from the call. But if we go down that route, I'm sure we'll get one of our members to be able to do a liaison for that. So that's it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
John?
Yeah, nothing except we did get the appointments out to the Racial Justice and Equity Committee. We met informally for 2 sessions, and I'm just really impressed with the people that are on it. They're really smart and I think really fair and interested in getting the right facts, or not the right facts, getting the right narratives out. So basically, this is what we're doing. We're going to put out a survey. We've got a draft survey already about people's attitudes and what they've seen, and I think that's going to be really interesting because I think we're going to be asking about ethnicity, and I think it's going to show, that in 2020 we have Hebron has moved to become more diverse than in 2010. So that's the first part, and then there's 3 narratives we're working on. One is Hebron history and demographics. That is how people got here. Metro Hartford history and demographics, which is interesting. And then state and local policies that may have impacted how people move, and if they were discriminatory. Everything we do, there will be no or very little of our own voice in this. I've told people that everything we do should be footnoted and cited. So everything's facts. So what we're gathering is facts. But everybody's viewpoint will be in the report. Hopefully the report won't be that long. The majority opinion will be in the body of the report. The minority opinion will be in footnotes on the same page. And what I see happening, I've spent some time now on the annual reports going back to 1930. I think this is going to be really good for Hebron. I got to tell you, I think it's going to show a really rich history, a lot of virtue, of people here, and I think it's going to lead us to the next into the future. It's a difficult thing to be fair with everybody, but I think it's important that we're fair not only with people in town, but also with people that lived here and settled here. But like I said, Hebron's going to become more diverse as we go along, just because the economics are driving it. COVID is going to drive it. We are just going to be changing so fast in the next 10 years. And I think this committee is going to help us understand things, bring mutual understanding. And I think it's going to help us economically too. I think it's going to be a good thing. At least that's what I'm driving for. So, like I said, nothing we say is going to be said without citation, facts, and references from reputable people that understand it. And I think we have the right people on the committee.
Thank you. Andy?
This, I think, would be the time to ask John a question. So the town in total had 13 people send in letters of interest to serve on the committee. So at some time or point, we would need to figure out who's going to be on that committee, and we need to send letters or responses back to the other people that applied.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Andy, last meeting when you were sick, we appointed the people, and we sent letters just last week to those people, appointing them. And the remaining people, I've tried to get a hold of. I want to keep them. This is a phase 1 part. It goes to February 28th. There are some people that I've talked to who are very interested, and I want them to be hopefully available for a phase 2 if there is a phase 2, but somehow get them in, have them participate in some way. but I haven't exactly figured that out yet. So, but I am talking with people on the list, trying to get a hold of them.
Okay, so just let us know. Normally we send a letter or some sort of acknowledgement. I know they've been waiting for, I don't know, about a month or so now. Just however you want to proceed, let us know and we'll work with you on that.
No, Andy, they were sent. They've already been sent.
I'm talking to the people that applied but aren't.
Oh, okay.
What I
Okay.
see is you have 3 people plus you and Mark, so that's 5. There was 13.
Yeah.
And we need to acknowledge those other people
Yeah.
in
You're
some way.
Absolutely
Okay.
right.
All right.
Hey, let me say something also before we end. Dan, Andy, you did a great job on this WPCA thing. Thanks for getting those people here. Thanks for getting the lawyer. It was really well managed, and I think we move forward. It's not going to be solved in the next month, but I think we'll solve it in the next couple of years. So appreciate that.
You're welcome. I think, yeah. Normally, I think on this, what Andy is saying is normally it's the town. We were basically said these were the people that are getting appointed, and we did so. I didn't realize there were so many other people that had applied. So if you can just work with Andy to come up with some sort of a response for those other people.
Yeah.
Because we don't want anybody to feel slighted or left out.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
you can't have a group of 13. That wouldn't be workable either. On my end, we have the Santa run, or the Santa Claus, trying to figure out my words here, actually is going to be starting his rounds Friday. I believe he's hitting some of the lake area streets. And he actually goes up in the Hope Valley Road area, Coates Farm. So that's starting Friday around town. If you get onto the fire department website, I believe that there is actually a road map as to what his journey is going to partake or persist of each night. So that's always a fun time. The modified Thanksgiving dinner for the seniors, I believe they had in excess of 80 seniors that they prepared meals for. So that was great. And again, the fire department delivered those meals to those individuals. So it may have been different, but that program still survived this year in spite of COVID. So that was great. The Hebron Historical Society, the Peters House, they're actually picking out colors and actually painting walls. So that project's coming along great. And hopefully at some point in time, they can actually open the doors and allow people to go in and visit. Everything again, all relates around COVID when they can do stuff like that, to have people in and look at that. But so things are happening on that. So that's good. And that's all I have. So with that, I don't know if we have any other public comment.
There's no public comment indicated at this time.
Okay, with that, make a motion for adjournment. Everybody, I wish you safe and happy next couple of weeks. Please stay healthy. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.